Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Fleur Synchro Yugioh deck profile for January 2022. I wanted to update the Fleur deck with the release of Brothers of Legend. The only thing I was missing was Baron de Fleur, which with the last deck profile update and how I was, completely defeated by the fact that I couldn't pull one from Synchro Storm, I didn't want to update the deck until I got an actual copy of the card, which I finally did. Very, very happy about that. And with it, I can finally update the Fleur Synchro deck, which focuses on not just Synchro summoning, but also Fusion summoning with our new cards we got from the Brothers of Legend set. Very, very happy we have the majority of the support for the deck now. It's really, I would say, a powerhouse Synchro deck that can easily summon out a bunch of different cards using sort of like the Noble Knights that Sherry LeBlanc used in the anime as well. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the main deck for some of the new cards from Brothers of Legend. We are running 3 Noble Knights Shield Bearer. If this card is normal or special summon, you can banish 1 light monster from your graveyard to draw 1 card. You can banish this card from your graveyard or field to add 1 level 6 or lower wind beast type monster from your deck to your hand. You're going to use 1 Noble Knight Shield Bearer effect per turn, and only once that turn. So I kind of misread the last effect. I was very confused by it for a bit, where it said wind beast. I thought it said wing beast, but obviously that was just me misreading the card. But the wind beast type monsters are all of the steeds that you can add to your hand, being the level 6 or lower. So you can add the white steed of the Floral Knights or the horse of the Floral Knights, the newest one we got from the Brothers of Legend set, with this card's search power and the additional draw power for the banish option for the other light monsters we have in our graveyard. I also run 3 of the new Noble Knights Spearholder. If this card's normal or special summon, you can target 1 level 8 or lower monster you control. Its name becomes Fleur Synchro. Also is treated as a tuner until the end of this turn. You can tribute this card to add 1 equip spell from your deck to your hand. You can use each effect of Spearholder once per turn. So the equip spell you add is Fleurette de Fleur, just by search power alone. Very, very useful there. And also giving you the option just to target a level 8 or lower monster you control and make it Fleur Synchro means you can even target your Chevalier de Fleur if you make this card with your Spearholder on the field, and that could be enough for you to summon out your level 10 Baron de Fleur onto the field to use. I would say it's a much better Synchro monster altogether to utilize against your opponent. For the Wind Beast Steed monsters, I am running 3 of the White Steed of the Floral Knights. If you control a level 2 or lower monster, you can special summon this card from your hand in defense position. You're going to use special summon White Steed of the Floral Knights once per turn, and when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 card you control, negate the attack. If you do destroy the targeted card, you're going to use this effect of White Steed of the Floral Knights once per turn. So combined with your setup of your Noble Knights Spearholder, being able just to target a level 8 or lower monster also for the setup and special summon gives you enough resources on the field to make full use of, and also the fact that even if you make this card a tuner, you have more of those options available to you, using this card more for the actual setup against your opponent. 3 of the newest one is Horse of the Floral Knights. This one is used for more of the fusion setup as well, with this one going into your Centaur Mina, the fusion monster. If this card is normal or special summon, you can add 1 light Noble Knights monster from your deck to your hand, and you can only use this effect of Horse of the Floral Knights once per turn, and once per turn during your main phase, you can fusion summon 1 fusion monster from your extra deck using this card you control and other monsters from your hand or field. So being able to add that option, if you add your Noble Knights Spearholder to your hand, being the light Noble Knight monster, you can then fuse using the Horse of the Floral Knights and your Spearholder from your hand to summon out Centaur Mina, which just requires a light warrior monster and 1 beast monster. Very, very useful for that fusion setup. For some of the additional monsters that we run, I am running 3 Necro Synchron. This card's name becomes Fleur Synchro while in the field or in the graveyard. You can use each of the following effects of Necro Synchron once per turn. You can target 1 other face-up monster you control, increase its level by 2 until the end of this turn. And if this card is sent to the graveyard as Synchro material for a wind monster, you can special summon 1 level 1 plant monster from your deck. So with this summon, being able to adjust the levels of your monsters on the field also gives you a variety of synchros to go into, but being able to boost up some of the other other face-up monsters, including your White Steed of Floral Knights, gives you a level 8 monster and the level 2 Necro Synchron, which once again, you can either keep the levels to go into Chevalier de Fleur, or raise the levels to go into Baron de Fleur, once again, one of the better boss monsters. For the rest of the monsters that we run for the deck, lower numbers, I run 2 Necro Fleur. If this card is destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Sorcière de Fleur from your deck. So this is greatly comboed with your École de Zone. This is the Destruction Field spell, which can either disrupt your opponent's plays or set up your own, which we'll get to when we go over the spells. But it's greatly used with Necro Fleur being able to just easily special summon out Sorcière de Fleur from your deck, which, speaking of, we are running 1 Sorcière de Fleur and 1 Sage de Fleur, or Sage, I think it's Sage though, but with it. Sorcière de Fleur, when it's normal or special summon, you can target 1 monster your opponent can to graveyard and special summon to your field, but it cannot attack your opponent directly and is destroyed during the end phase. You can use this effect of Sorcière de Fleur once per turn, and Sage de Fleur, being able to target 1 monster you control and 1 card on the field, special summon this card from your hand, and if you do destroy them, it works with Necro Fleur as well to combo to get out Sorcière de Fleur if you don't have the field spell, so pretty useful there, but I just feel you need 1-ups for each of them. They're both level 8 monsters, so very, very useful for Baron de Fleur to combo with Necro Synchron, but they rarely come up with the sense. I do like the Necro Fleur special summon a little better for it. And then for the rest of the monsters for the main deck, I just run 3 Ash Blossom, just the hand trap of choice, being able to stop a good amount of setup that your opponent may have. You can run other ones like Effect Veiler or Nibiru, but I do prefer this one just because you want to keep your Synchro set up on the field already. And that is it for the main deck monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. I run 3 Fleurette de Fleur. You activate this card by targeting 1 level 2 or lower monster in your graveyard. Special summon it, but negate its effects. Also equip it with this card. And when this card is equipped by this effect, leaves the field, destroy that monster. And the equipped monster gains 700 attack. If this card is sent from the spell and trap card zone to the graveyard, you can equip this card to 1 synchro monster you control. You can only use this effect of Fleurette de Fleur once per turn. So the option for a level 2 or lower monster gives us plenty of resources in the deck. We have Necro Fleur, Necro Synchron, and even our Noble Knight Spear Holder having all of these cards for the targets. That's why I like running 3 of this card, because it also works pretty well to get resources back with École de Zone. But before we get to that card, I also run 2 Synchro Dilemma. With this card, you can activate 1 of the following effects. You can send 1 Synchron monster from your hand or face up on the field to the graveyard, special summon 1 monster from your hand, or target 1 card you control, destroy it, and if you do, special summon 1 Synchron monster with a different original name from your hand or graveyard. So just options to special summon your Necro Synchron back onto the field to use as the go-to tuner for the good majority of your plays. I feel you only need 2 though. Once you have it set up, there's really no need for you to draw into multiples. I do run 3 École de Zone. Now, some people might not like running this card. If you didn't want to run the field spell lineup with this card and Necro Fleur, you can always remove these cards for just additional hand traps. But I do kind of like the play style of it. It more goes in line with a control setup for your opponent to play around. If the turn player summons exactly 1 monster, destroy it. And if you do, the controller of that monster special summons 1 mask token onto the field, which cannot attack directly, with attack and defense equal to that of the destroyed monster. You can only use this effect of École de Zone once per turn, and if this face-up card leaves the field, destroy all mask tokens on the field. So if your opponent summons a monster, it just gets rid of that monster and then gives them a token that they then have to work with instead. If you summon out Necro Fleur as your first summon, you can destroy it, gaining the token, but you can then also summon out Sorcière de Fleur on the field, giving you a much better monster thanks to your own play setup. Obviously, if you have this card, you can go for your own synchro plays first and then activate École de Zone, so you don't have to destroy your own monsters. You can just wait for your opponent to destroy their own, since they have to play around either this card or the first monster they'll summon out. And it also works for some of the other setup. If you go with this card on the field and you destroy 1 of your monsters, especially the level 2 monsters, because then you have the option with Fleurette de Fleur to at least then summon back the monster onto the graveyard, giving you the level 1 token as a resource on the field. And if you use it to summon out some of your other ones, like Necro Synchron after the destruction, you also have targets in the extra deck using the token to then go into cards like Crystron Halqifibrax, setting up more and more resources for you to use as well. But once again, it's a card you can play around. It doesn't really have to be activated before you use your own plays. You can set it, then activate it after you have some of your main go-to boss monsters ready on the field to go. For some of the one-ofs in the deck, and we do run a good number of them, they just work very, very well. One, Reinforcements of the Army can search out more and more cards in the deck for that are Warrior. Instant Fusion for some of the other fusion targets. I like running some of the fusion tuner lineup to work with some of the other monsters in the deck. One, Monster Reborn, getting back resources onto the field. One, Reasoning for more setup. We run plenty of different level monsters in the main deck, so just being able to have an easy summon and a hard guess for our opponent. One for one. This is used for Necro Fleur. There's just another summon on the field. It just says the first time it may summon one monster, so even if this is your go-to play first before your normal summon, the destruction off of a Cold Zone will resolve. And also one Terraforming for searching out that field spell, and one Call by the Grave for shutting down any of your opponent's graveyard plays. If you didn't want to run a Cold Zone, there's also the option, which the one card I didn't run in the deck is Heritage of the Chalice, which is a search for your Noble Knight monsters in the deck. If you wanted to run that card, you can either take out the Cold Zones for more of a lineup for searching with those cards. You would also have to take out the Terraforming, and I would remove the Necro Fleurs as well, but you can just add in additional hand traps like Effect Veiler, Nibiru, you name it, for those spots. It's player preference. If you wanted to keep the Cold Zones in the deck, you can then either preferably take out, let's say, one of the Reasonings, the Terraforming, since you are running 3 copies of this card, and then just one additional card from the main deck, even maybe a Fleurette de Fleur, to add any copies between 2 and 3 of Heritage of the Chalice to the deck. And then as for the traps, the only trap I run in the deck is just Infinite Impermanence, just the 3 of, just to stop my opponent's monster plays. It's the only trap I really prefer. There were some other ones, like Liberty at Last, which you can, consider running, or some of the other ones from the deck that work with it. But then you'd have to take up more and more space in the trap lineup for them, so I just prefer Impermanence to those cards. And that is it for the main deck. We'll now move on to the extra deck. I only have the one. If you have 2, then you can definitely run it in the deck. It will definitely be a bigger preference to some of the other synchros, but most people I know only have the one because this card is pretty pricey. With Baron de Fleur, once per turn you can target one card on the field, destroy it, and once while face up on the field, when a card or effect is activated, you can negate the activation. If you do destroy that card, you can only use the previous effect of Baron de Fleur once per turn, and once per turn during the standby phase, you can target one level 9 or lower monster in your graveyard, return this card to the X deck, and special summon it. So more destruction with your cards. This card can be the card to destroy Necro Fleur, to then summon out your Sorcière de Fleur on the field, just for more and more of that setup with this card alone. And once again, if you had multiple copies, you can run a second one. If I were to, I would drop the number of Chevalier de Fleur that I run in the deck down to 1. It's a good card, but once again can easily be recycled with plenty of other cards we're running in the deck. Once per turn during your turn, when your opponent activates a spell or a trap card, you can negate the activation and destroy it. So you have Baron to focus on, monster effects and other cards. This one is more of a specific one, but I would say a little more easier to summon out also using our steeds and our different tuners. For the other synchros that I run in the deck, I also run one Coral Dragon, more destruction plays with our synchros, same with Black Rose Dragon. Borreload Savage Dragon, we do run a good number of Link monsters, so setting this card up for monster effect negations. And one Chaos Ruler, the Chaotic Magical Dragon. We do run Light and Dark monsters, which you can also make use of with this card, either to summon it back onto the field, and also just to add one of the Excavated Light or Darks with it. And for the fusions, I'm running 2 Centaur Mina. You need 1 Light Warrior monster and 1 Beast monster once per turn during your turn. When your opponent activates a trap card, quick effect, you can negate the activation. If you do set that card, you can only use each of the following effects of Centaur Mina once per turn. And during your main phase, you can special summon 2 level 2, summon 1 level 2 or lower from your hand or graveyard. If this card is sent to the graveyard as a synchro material for a Wind Warrior monster, you can destroy 1 face-up monster on the field. So another play with this is just to have this card out on the field and then summon out your Noble Knight's Spearholder to then target a level 8 or lower monster, which will be your Centaur Mina, making it a tuner, and its name becomes Fleur Synchro. Then you have these 2 monsters to then synchro summon out into your Wind monster, which is your Chevalier de Fleur, with that play also being able to then destroy 1 face-up monster on the field, and then having the spell and trap negation thanks to Centaur Mina. For the rest of the fusions, 1 Sea Monster of Theseus and also 1 Alvain, the Essence of Vanity. They're both fusion tuner monsters, which can be summoned out with instant fusion, so it is a big plus there for sure. And also the fact that we have a level 6 monster to work with Essence of Vanity, and a level 3 monster, which if we don't go for the fusion play, can be used with Theseus to get out Chevalier de Fleur. Just remember, the name for the monster has to be Fleur Synchro to summon out Chevalier de Fleur, but you do have plenty of level 8 options to go into using these cards. For the Link monsters, I run 1 Crystron Halqifibrax for the Tuner Search, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, and 1 Nightmare Unicorn for more of the generic Link plays, along with 1 Apollosa, Bow of the Goddess. When you can get them out, it's good, but most of the time I do like to stick to the Fusion and Synchro plays. As for some of the go-to plays in the deck, a lot of them revolve around just what resources you have. I said before with Horse of the Floral Knights, when it's normal or special summon, being able to add 1 light Noble Knight monster, so just being able to add Spear Holder to your hand, can then give you the 2 monsters needed to summon out your Centaur Mina, which also having the trap negation can be good if you go first against your opponent, and they were to, let's say, evenly matched or have some other type of trap lineup, like Infinite Impermanence to stop. And also, during your main phase, you can special summon 1 level 2 or lower monster from your hand or graveyard, giving you the target with Spear Holder with this card, being able to use its effect also in its special summon. So then, once again, you can go for the summon using these 2 cards into your Chevalier de Fleur, and the bigger play from that comes into play if you have Fleurette de Fleur, because then you can use this card as another special summon for your Noble Knight Spear Holder on the field to summon back, and then also make your Chevalier de Fleur the tuner. It is also not a option for the turn you use it, just remember, because it is a once per turn, but still good for the option to go into. One of the bigger ones, once you have Chevalier de Fleur on the field, would be if you have your Necro Synchron ready for the setup, being able to just target 1 other monster on the field for this play, or even if you set this card up in the graveyard prior and you activate your Fleurette de Fleur, you have the summon to then go into your Baron with this summon setup. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. I know Baron de Fleur is being used in a lot more decks than the actual Fleur Synchro deck, but I hope you all enjoy giving the deck a try with the Brothers of Legend. We definitely got plenty of support to make it much more viable than we did when just Synchro Storm out. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.